Hello, this is Jamie Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first, we have the big difference between Harris and Trump, and that's the post that I made. And I said, one will stab you in the front, and the other will stab you in the back. It just depends on what your politics are. And that's my thoughts there. You know, it doesn't really matter who gets elected. You know, they'll all find a way to screw you over in the end. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Next, we have Democrats lost tech libertarians from notboring.co from Ultranick, and I would agree with that. You know, Democrats have lost a lot of people over the years, and that's why Donald Trump is still a viable candidate, even after a decade of seemingly, oh, this is the end of Trump. Seemingly Trump's ship is supposed to have sank multiple times at this point. And, that's why, the Democrats losing people is a big way. And, one of the people they're losing, as this article mentions, they're losing a lot of tech people because increasingly they just want to tax them out of existence. And, I think if Democrats stopped taxing so much, maybe people would like them a little more. But that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have major candidate liberty scores: Harris D plus 2.47, Trump D 2.35 from Cal Curmudgeon. That's the self-post that they made. I'm sure they said, I'm sure there'll be much disagreement, so please don't tell me just because you disagree. Feel free to have the discourse modify that assessment to your own thoughts. It'll be relative to some degree, but it is intending to be objective. Furthermore, this involves a combination of individual positions and party positions. Harris may be judged based on some degree as a member of the Biden administration, and Trump may be judged by some degree based on his first term as president. Methodology: assigning a letter grade to every position that Libertarian Party supports, when not directive what the pro-liberty position is, or for a variety of issues. Letter grades based upon the following: A equals marked improvement to liberty or strong support of pro-liberty position. B equals some improvement to liberty or pro-liberty rhetoric. C equals no relative change. D equals some decline of liberty or anti-liberty rhetoric. F equals marked decline of liberty or strong support of anti-liberty positions. The average we posted in the title of A plus being 5.4, and then people can go over the scoring for the rest of that paragraph. Then we have, lastly, this is kind of fun, so if I have any blind spots, if I'm not recollecting, please comment. I actually want it to be some kind of accurate and helpful, and though it is intended to be objective, it is inherently subjective. Capital punishment. Both candidates have supported the state committing first-degree murder of its own citizens. Harris, Trump, F. I would agree with that. I didn't like how Trump used the federal government to execute people as well, so I think Trump might be worse overall on that issue, but I definitely don't think Harris is as good either, because they still haven't gotten rid of capital punishment on the federal level yet under her and Biden's tenure. Then we have consumer choice, lack of individual evidence, but Republicans do tend to support greater consumer choice. Both Democrats have pushed soda bans, menthol bans, etc. None of this particularly applies to the individual categories, so we'll say Harris equals D, Trump equals C. I would agree with that. Criminal justice. Both candidates have supervised over-policing and big brother policy. Harris, Trump equals F. I agree with that. Democracy voting. Harris has shown respect for institutions and anti-gerrymandering, while Trump still denies election results to this day. Harris equals A, Trump equals F. Then I agree with that. Then drug policy. Dems have largely supported expanded drug use freedom of decriminalization for 30 years since 90s style drug enforcement, where Republicans have largely absent. That said, Trump made no specific arguments against it and even floated marijuana legalization. Furthermore, Harris's record towards drug use in California is not great. Harris, Trump equals C. Education. Trump supports charter schools and weakening the Department of Education, while Harris would like to strengthen public school, has been part of an administrative moving the cost burden of cost per college for taxpayers and prosecuted school truancy. Harris equals F, Trump equals A. Environmental policy. Neither candidate such party has explored free market solutions towards reducing climate change, such as removal of fossil fuel subsidies. The Biden administration has raised emission standards and taken the most aggressive actions against climate change to account for negative externalities, but also raised tariffs on Chinese solar imports equals C. Trump administration has taken almost pro-CO2 carbon dioxide position equals F. Firearms. Harris is staunchly against firearms proliferation equals F. Trump banned bump stocks and concerns about firearm equals B. And let's see, free market/trades. Both parties have taken more isolation steps in this regard as trade, nor have particularly voted for free markets for both. Freedom of speech. Both parties have called for various forms of censorship, whether they be traditional media or social media. Both are F. For foreign policy, both Biden, Harris, and Trump administrations have reduced foreign military involvement. That said, both support lending military aid to a quote-unquote ally. And he gave them both a B. I personally would give them both a D, because it seems like they're both pushing for, war of at least one of China, Russia, or Iran, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have government spending. Democrats tend to support more balanced budgets, but with increased government spending. Republicans tend to support less spending, but with less balance, both D. Healthcare, opposing positions on Medicare, the Affordable Care Act, and Trump expanded individual choice and right to try. Biden, Harris didn't even Medicare right to negotiate. Harris equals D, Trump equals A. Immigration, free trade, and free markets operate optimally with the free movement of labor and capital. Trump had taken enormous steps to restrict immigration, including advocating for a wall, while Biden/Harris admin has been less loud about such positions, have not exactly supported the free movement of people. Harris equals D, Trump equals F. Marriage equality. Democrats openly support marriage equality, ignoring the issue of whether government should be involved in marriage in the first place. Republicans are largely against such positions. Trump is not taking any real steps against marriage equality, but has supported the appointment of those who are more likely to vote against it. Harry equals A, Trump equals D. I'd give Trump a C for marriage equality. You know, he did remove, it's not in the Republican Party platform this year, and I do think, you know, he's more pro-marriage equality than a lot of people would say. But other than that, I agree with that. Then we have reproductive rights. Harris staunchly supports. Trump appointed those who acted against. Harris equals A, Trump equals F. Tax policy, the right has largely pushed for reduction in taxes, while the left has pushed for more, specifically for the upper class. Harris equals D, Trump equals B. And they had two edits. Edit 1, for context errors for Biden some time ago and got C-. It's basically everything in alignment with Harris minus Harris, as well as prosecuting California prior to Biden passing tariffs on Chinese solar equipment. Edit 2, to whoever said I called anyone a whore and edited it, please stop spreading lies slash rumors. I have not done no such things and can't recall the last time I've referred to any other person as such or any other sexually derogatory and so on. They're the mod, so I don't know which mod they're referring to. It doesn't matter because it's not true and the mod would be mistaken. And yeah, I guess I would agree with that overall assessment. I definitely don't think either of them are that good for liberty, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have third parties in the USA always end up revealing themselves as Republican Party subordinate groups. This is a product of legal voting methods enshrined in the law. The first best post, RFK wanted a White House job in exchange for endorsing Trump from BusinessInsider.com by American MWAF. And this is just, you know, the third parties. You know, the thing about the third parties is that the two major parties think they're entitled to votes, and oftentimes each one has probably get around 40% of the vote automatically because 40% of people are going R no matter what, 40% of people are going D no matter what. So yeah, I personally don't think they are supporting groups of either party, but you know, ultimately partisans will say, oh, the third parties are stealing the election from me because they feel entitled to the votes from third parties, and that's my thoughts on the odd issue. Then we have how 4 U.S. presidents unleashed economic warfare across the globe from Lemon Limelight, and they said an interesting article in the Washington Post, how 4 U.S. presidents unleashed economic warfare across the globe, details America's use of economic sanctions. And I'm going to skim that, let's see. And then they added, after their article, they said, there's quite a bit more in the article. It's worth reading, in my opinion, but it's difficult to pare down. Here are some other highlights. Overuse of sanctions make it risky for foreign entities to use the dollar, the key to U.S. financial supremacy, which incentivizes alternatives. Sanction overreach could ultimately reduce our capability to use sanctions effectively. Staffers in the Treasury Department, which is ultimately responsible for implementing sanctions, drafted a 40-page plan to reform the sanctions process, but disagreements within the State Department whittled the plan down to state pages with the most toothless recommendations. The Treasury Department is inundated with tens of thousands of requests from the private sector. White House officials have brainstormed sanctions scenarios with outside nonprofits. Biden unleashed an unprecedented volley of more than 6,000 sanctions in 2 years, exceeding Trump's already unprecedented rate, and largely maintained sanctions he said he would ease. Sanctions are the only thing keeping diplomacy and war assets has become the most important foreign policy tool in the U.S. arsenal, and no one government is sure the whole strategy would even work, according to a Washington-based think tank. And I would agree with those statements. You know, sanctions, I think, go against free trade. And I think if private individuals want sanction, I think they should be able to. I don't know if government-enforced sanctions are the correct answer. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Harris has expressed libertarian policy solutions being open Supreme Court expansions, which is decentralizing the power of the Supreme Court from truthout.org by American NWAF. And I would disagree with that. You know, ultimately, the Supreme Court expansion is just going to be used as a way to push more authoritarianism. You know, the only reason the Democrats are pushing for Supreme Court expansion right now is because it's the only branch they really don't control completely, and that's why I think they're pushing for it so hard. And that's why I personally don't think it's that libertarian. I think, you know, I think 9 justices is fine, but, you know, if people want to have more, you know, that's on them. But, you know, you can't really, you know, if it was 6 free liberal instead of 6 free conservative, you know, I don't think they'd be pushing expansion as hard. That's what I'm getting at. And we have a Republican candidate, too scared to be opponent now. That's a woman from CH for Locks, a cross post from the Republican Values subreddit, and that's Kamala Harris tweeting, "What happened to any time, any place? quote tweeting Sam Stein, Trump says he's backing out of the debates. And I think this is just propaganda, I think Trump Harris is arguably going to be even worse at debating than Biden. And I think this is just kind of cope that, I don't really like Trump, but he's going to mop the floor of Harris, I think, when they debate. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have worst 10 federal laws, newest history from Mr. Beat, and I posted that. And then Lemon Line posted, here's the list: worst, least worst, Indian Removal Act, Dawes Act, Fugitive Slave Act, Chinese Exclusion Act, Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, Kansas-Nebraska Act, Controlled Substances Act, Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, Authorization Freeze, Military Force 2001, Alien Sedition Act. And I think that's a decent list. I'm personally surprised no Patriot Act. I think the Patriot Act should probably be on there, especially of how it lets government spy on people without the use of a warrant. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Also, I'd probably have the Espionage Act that was passed under the Wilson Administration Act on there as well. Then we have last post for the people claiming that the opening video is not depicting Last Supper from Clint Russell on Twitter, and I posted that, and that was him talking about how they had all the drag queens at the Olympics do the Last Supper, and I said, at a certain point when it's expected, it no longer becomes subversive. That the thing with the woke is, when they mock Christianity or, mock anything, the mocking itself doesn't, that doesn't bother me as much as the fact that they're trying to subvert all the major Western cultural institutions, and that's why, it's cultural Marxism. The woke seek to implement, to use culture as a means to put forward their agenda, and that's not something that I think is very libertarian. I think if people want to be woke, I think they should be able to. But when you try and push other people to be woke and almost force them to be woke by enforcing all these cultural standards, I don't think that's too libertarian. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Yeah. And we have, in a recent meeting with Netanyahu, violation of the Logan Act, by the way, Trump openly stated that World War III would begin if he wasn't reelected. And that's a crosspost that's from CH4Locks, a crosspost from the Defeat Project 2025 subreddit. And, I personally think World War III is going to come regardless of which candidate gets elected. I don't think it matters too much in the long run. I think it's all been planned out a long time ago at this point, and I think, if it's Trump, will probably be through China or Iran. If it's Harris, will probably be for Russia, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have J.D. Vance, Americans without children should face consequences from Ragnarok KXG, and that's a crosspost from the Public Freakout subreddit. And, I personally think, if people want to have children, they should be able to, but I don't think they should have consequences for not having children if they don't want to. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trump tells Christians they won't have to vote in the future. We'll have it fixed from RollingStone.com by Donald Key. And this is just another statement that Trump's saying, I think, to get people riled up. He was always good about saying stuff like this to get people riled up, and that can be interpreted multiple ways, like, oh, you won't have to vote because everything will be fixed for good, or, oh, you won't have to vote because there won't be elections anymore. Trump is Trump's just being Trump, just he always knows what to say to get people riled up. And then we have the man behind Trump's BP pick, It's Worse Than You Think, from UnlimitedHangouts.com by Tom13, that's crosswords from Libertarian Party USA subreddit, and I said, Reddit, the right hates gay people. Also Reddit, isn't Peter Thiel the worst? Peter Thiel's a billionaire who definitely doesn't have my best interest at heart. Well, with that being said, the left loves billionaires when they play for their team, like George Soros or J.B. Pritzker. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Glenn, this is scandalous and unethical. The Black Atlantic writer is scheming to worm his way into the new white identity groups and Zoom calls created for Kamala. These groups have made clear that these are white spaces and that they should be respected, not violated, from Glenn Greenwald on Twitter, and I posted that. And that was Glenn Greenwald quote tweeting Tyler Austin Harper, who wanted to see if he could infiltrate one of the whites-only Zoom calls for Kamala. And I said, woke white people usually turn out to be some of the most racist, sexist, etc. that they accuse other people of being. They just manage to hide behind the veil of political correctness. That's why I think I have a big problem with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. To me, the big difference between the two major parties is that when it comes to controlling narrative and gaslighting, Republicans can definitely be decent when it comes to those, but Democrats are by far the master of them. And stuff like this is definitely a good example as to why. Then we have Project 2025, Republicans said the quiet parts out loud, from Steve Shrives on YouTube, and that's from Winter Trabex. And I personally don't really care for Project 2025, but I think it's mostly just fear mongering. It's like, January 6th has gotten stale. We need a new thing to fearmonger about, and that's what pretty much Project 2025 is for them. Then we have, is the focus on opposing democracy in libertarian spaces the way to advance libertarian to alt-right pipeline by Fuck Him Back 6969? And I guess you could make that argument, but I personally would say, democracy is something that's inherently unlibertarian. It's forced collectivism. I think voluntary collectivism is the answer, not forced collectivism. And we call Trump calls for jail sentence for desecrating flags. Two people say it's unconstitutional from Leo.com by H310S. And I would disagree with that. Ultimately, I think that falls under freedom of expression. I think you should be able to burn whatever you want as long as it's your own property. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Reddit, if Kamala wins, and I posted that, and I said, the fact that the election was at all close is proof that the America is still inherently racist and sexist. Also, even though I have my resist banner at the ready, I will just fight all of Kamala's authoritarian policies, because there are good authoritarian policies instead of bad ones. Finally, I will still continue to play the victim, even though my party is in power, because it doesn't matter which party is in power, my victim mentality will continue until all dissent is illegal. And that's my thoughts on that issue, That's why I kind of want Trump when it comes to Reddit, at least, because they'll at least care when Trump's authoritarian. They don't care about federal government authoritarianism when the Democrats in power. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Elon Musk shares manipulated Harris video and seemingly violations of X's policies from NewYorkTimes.com by Swampyanky Dan. And this is just another kind of Tesla man bad Fred. I personally don't think, I think the video is clearly faked, and, Elon, I think if he wants to share videos like that, he should be able to. But that being said, I do think he definitely does leave some stuff to be desired when it comes to free speech, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have part of Stop Woke Act permanently blocked by federal judges unconstitutional from Fox35Orlando.com by Swampyanky Dan. And I guess that's good, I would say. Ultimately, I might agree with some stuff in the Stop Woke Act on a personal level, but I don't think we should be enforcing those on private company things or morality on private companies or individuals, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have a point of no return why Europe has become an epicenter for anti-tourism protests this summer from edition.cnn.com by CH4Locks, and that's crossers from the NMETD subreddit. And I definitely do think, if people want protests, I think they should be able to. With that being said, I don't think protests really change too much. The confidence for protests will change too much. Then we have Choose Your Authoritarian, They Will Protect You by Chad Muffin. That was electoral vote choices under capitalism, like vote for one, the billionaire who mocks with disabilities, or the AG who laughed about imprisoning parents because of disabilities for missing too much school. And I would agree with that. Ultimately, they'll just find different ways to screw you over, and that's pretty much any politician for that matter. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.